In a moment that has sent shockwaves through the sports and political worlds alike, a U.S. Olympic hockey player has publicly criticized the White House, declaring in a candid statement, "That's not who I am." The remark, sharp and deeply personal, has ignited a national conversation about identity, patriotism, political pressure, and the evolving role of athletes in the public sphere. In an era where sports figures are no longer confined to arenas and locker rooms but occupy powerful platforms in cultural discourse, this latest clash underscores just how intertwined athletics and politics have become in the United States. A statement that sparked a firestorm. The controversy began when the Olympic athlete, widely recognized for representing Team USA on the global stage, responded to what was perceived as a political alignment or endorsement connected to a White House event. While Olympic athletes often attend celebratory receptions following major competitions, this situation quickly escalated beyond ceremonial appearances. The player's response, firm, emotional, and unmistakably personal, emphasized autonomy. "That's not who I am," they said, distancing themselves from narratives that suggested political allegiance or ideological alignment. The comment spread rapidly across social media, sports networks, and political talk shows. Supporters praised the athlete for standing by their principles. Critics accused them of injecting politics into sports. Others argued the opposite, that politics had already entered sports long ago. The weight of the jersey. Representing the United States at the Olympics carries profound symbolism. The jersey is more than fabric, it's a national emblem. Athletes become ambassadors, not only for their sport but for their country's ideals. That symbolic weight can be empowering, but also burdensome. For Olympic athletes, the line between national pride and political representation is often blurry. When a player steps onto the ice wearing USA across their chest, they are celebrated as embodiments of unity. But when they step off the ice and express personal beliefs, the unity narrative can fracture. This player's comments highlight a growing reality: modern athletes are individuals first, representatives second. Sports and politics, an unavoidable collision. For decades, athletes have navigated political crosscurrents. From silent protests to public speeches, sports arenas have frequently doubled as stages for broader societal debates. The Olympic platform, in particular, magnifies everything. The Games are built on ideals of international cooperation, peace, and competition without conflict. Yet history shows that politics have always been present, sometimes subtly, sometimes explosively. In this case, the tension appears rooted in perceived expectations. Should an Olympic athlete automatically align with the sitting administration? Does attending a White House ceremony equate to endorsement? Can an athlete separate national pride from political identity? The hockey player's firm rejection suggests they believe those distinctions matter deeply. "That's not who I am," identity over image. The power of the statement lies in its simplicity. That's not who I am. It's not a policy critique. Not a partisan slogan, not a lengthy manifesto. It's a declaration of identity. For elite athletes, public image is often carefully curated by agents, sponsors, leagues, and media advisors. To step outside that structure and speak in plain, personal terms signals something important: authenticity. In a sports culture where brand partnerships and media narratives often shape perception, authenticity resonates strongly with fans. The athlete's statement suggests that they felt mischaracterized, perhaps even co-opted, by broader political messaging. By speaking out, they reclaimed their personal narrative. The backlash and the support. As expected, reactions were polarized. On one side, supporters applauded the courage it takes to challenge institutional expectations. They framed the athlete's words as a reminder that patriotism does not require political conformity. On the other side, critics argued that representing Team USA implies a willingness to participate in traditional national celebrations, including White House visits. Some questioned whether refusing or criticizing such engagements disrespects the office rather than the individual administration. The divide reflects a broader national climate in which nearly every public statement is interpreted through partisan lenses. The modern athlete, more than a competitor. Today's Olympians are not insulated from social realities. They live in the same polarized environment as everyone else, scrolling through headlines, forming opinions, experiencing community tensions. Unlike previous generations, modern athletes have direct communication channels with fans. Social media allows them to speak without intermediaries. That immediacy increases both influence and vulnerability. For this hockey star, speaking out may have been inevitable. The culture of sports has shifted dramatically in recent years. Athletes are increasingly encouraged to use their platform. But when they do, the response is rarely neutral. Patriotism reimagined. At the heart of the controversy lies a fundamental question: what does patriotism look like today? For some, patriotism is demonstrated through ceremony and institutional tradition. For others, it's expressed through independent thought and accountability. The Olympic players' words suggest they believe patriotism includes the freedom to dissent. In democratic societies, dissent is not the opposite of loyalty, it can be an expression of it. By asserting, "That's not who I am," the athlete implicitly defended the right to define their own values separate from political structures. The White House tradition. Inviting championship teams and Olympic medalists to the White House is a long-standing American tradition. It's meant to celebrate achievement, unify citizens around shared pride, and honor excellence. But tradition does not eliminate complexity. Over the years, athletes from various sports have declined invitations, citing political differences or personal convictions. Others have attended despite disagreements, choosing to separate ceremony from ideology. This latest incident adds another chapter to that evolving story. The difference now is amplification. What might once have been a quiet scheduling decision becomes headline news in minutes. The emotional toll, lost in much of the public debate, is the human element. Olympic athletes endure immense pressure. Years of training, global scrutiny, and the burden of national expectations. When political controversy enters the picture, the emotional toll multiplies. The hockey player's statement carried visible frustration, perhaps exhaustion. Being publicly associated with a narrative that doesn't align with one's beliefs can feel deeply personal. Athletes are trained to absorb hits on the ice. Handling political firestorms requires a different kind of resilience. Sponsors, teams, and institutional response. Whenever high-profile athletes speak on political matters, questions arise about sponsorship and organizational response. Brands typically prefer stability. Teams often aim to avoid controversy. Governing bodies focus on unity and international reputation. So far, there appears to be cautious neutrality from institutions connected to the player. That neutrality, itself, is telling, an acknowledgement that athlete autonomy is increasingly recognized as part of modern sports culture. A cultural crossroads. This moment reflects a broader cultural crossroads. Sports once functioned as an escape from political division. Increasingly, they mirror it. Fans who tune in for competition now encounter conversations about identity, equity, and governance. Some welcome the engagement, others long for separation, but perhaps separation is no longer realistic. Athletes are citizens. Citizens have beliefs. When those beliefs intersect with national institutions, friction can occur. The power of personal voice. What makes this situation particularly compelling is its tone. The hockey player did not deliver a partisan attack. They did not outline policy grievances. They simply asserted personal identity. "That's not who I am." In a media landscape saturated with long statements and defensive press releases, brevity can be powerful. It invites reflection rather than dictating interpretation. Generational shift. Younger athletes, especially those who grew up in the digital age, are often more comfortable expressing themselves publicly. They view their platforms as integrated with their identities, not separate from them. This generational shift may explain why such statements feel more common, and more accepted, than in decades past. What comes next? The immediate news cycle will eventually move on. But the implications linger. Will this moment influence how future Olympic teams engage with political institutions? Will it reshape expectations surrounding ceremonial visits? Will more athletes feel empowered to assert independence? It's impossible to predict with certainty. But cultural shifts often occur gradually, through moments like this. The ice remains. Amid the headlines, one thing remains unchanged: the game itself. Hockey is relentless, physical, unforgiving. On the ice, politics fade into the background. Speed, skill, and teamwork take center stage. For this Olympic athlete, returning focus to performance may be the clearest path forward. Yet their words will echo beyond the rink. A defining moment. Whether viewed as defiance or authenticity, the statement marks a defining moment in this athlete's public narrative. They could have remained silent. They chose not to. In doing so, they reinforced a central truth of modern sports culture: athletes are not merely symbols. They are individuals with convictions, boundaries, and identities that cannot always be neatly aligned with institutional expectations. Beyond red, white, and blue, the Olympic jersey represents unity. But unity does not demand uniformity. The power of democratic society lies partly in its ability to accommodate diverse voices, Even, and perhaps especially, when those voices emerge from unexpected places like an ice rink. By asserting, "That's not who I am," this hockey player reminded fans that personal identity does not dissolve under national colors. Final thoughts. This controversy is not just about one athlete or one administration. It's about evolving expectations in a country where sports, politics, and identity increasingly intersect. The image of a hockey player skating under bright Olympic lights remains inspiring. But inspiration today is multifaceted. It includes bravery in competition, and sometimes bravery in conversation. As debates continue and opinions clash, one reality stands clear: the modern Olympic athlete occupies a powerful space at the crossroads of culture and conscience. And sometimes, the most impactful statement isn't shouted from a podium or delivered in a speech.